Hey everyone, I was sitting and started thinking about some things and I wanted to share this. So I want you to know you didn't create the world that we're living in right now, and that we really are here to put on the screeching brakes and not necessarily, come full circle, but in a way, yes. And many people, particularly in the spiritual community, but also maybe in psychology and whatnot, are saying, go inward and find the answers for yourself. And while that is completely true, my work is really understanding, why are we doing that? What happened that is creating that? That we're headed back to who we naturally are, which is being internally guided. That's no surprise. That's not earth-shattering. But what is earth-shattering is why we got to this place of not being connected to that anymore. And that's why people feel so stuck. But the greater piece there is, it's something I figured out in my work called the model, which is the control that we assert to maintain or advance our place in the hierarchy. And the importance of that is, you might think, I'm not doing that. I'm never doing that. But we are doing it all the time. Even this is my work, and I'm in a struggle at this. Like, I've come through 3 times through quite an epic, we could say rebirth. I don't need to use that terminology, more a epic journey to come through to the other side of it. And in the journey, it taught me many things. Some of those journeys were, well, several of them were really a long time. I mean, one was 8 years, one was 6 years, so the other was, I don't know exactly how many years, a lot, though, probably 12. So this one that I'm doing right now is, it's the same thing, but I've learned all these tools to get to this point to do it. So if you're really feeling like you're struggling, like there's so much pressure on you to come through and come out, it's because you've had all these other times that you've figured out all this information and you're ready, right? But I know how that feels. I can sympathize, and really truly this is not simple work. So I figure something that's good is, we want to look at things that are troublesome to us, like the mundane might be really tricky for you, making the doctor's appointments, getting the groceries done. And that's not unusual, because those simple human things become a heavier effort when we're in the process and in that expanse of moving out of something into something else. So there is this almost form of narrowing or depression. You're questioning yourself, why am I feeling this way? And really the question to ask is, why are these feelings there? What is going on with that? So with that, I want to talk a little bit about somatic work. Somatic work comes in our world in 3 different modalities: in family constellation work, in somatic work itself, which tends to be more the spiritual, and then also in internal family systems, which is more, it's used by psychology. But in that system, I moved further into it and got a little bit more irreverent with it. And in the somatic work, not just relating to parts that would be inner children parts, but just the things that come up. Now, this is not, you're not going to be a stranger to this if you meditate. But what I'm asking is, here is, can we look at it as this place of, we're in this world where the mundane is nauseating to some degree, because it's like we're doing the same things again and again, and it's not feeling good to us necessarily, because we really are expansive creators. And when we're in that expansive creation, getting groceries done and doing those things won't seem like anything, right? So we're in that space. We're coming through to know ourselves again. And that's what was lost based on this model. So I'm going to give you a quick example of the model. I was at a grocery store once, and then we'll get back to somatic work. And this man said to me, he was ringing up groceries for me, but I had 2 carts full. It was a big stock pile up. And he said, what do you do for a living? And at the time I was teaching homeschool art classes. And he said, oh, there's this woman who, at the culmination of 15 years of creating these large paintings, she made one canvas that was quite large, that was all yellow. It was all painted yellow. And he stopped ringing and he looked at me and he said, is that good art? And I stopped begging and looked at him. And then I kept begging and I said, "Did it move you?" And he said, "No, of course it didn't." And then he told me all these reasons. He wasn't sure if it was good and it was negative about it and so on. That's the model. That's what we do to ourselves every day. And when I say in this message, I'm coming through something, I'm meaning that negativity, and we can say it's messages and so on. But it's, to me, beyond that, it's stuck in our body, and whether it's lineage or it's our own experience in this lifetime, it's complex. And when I said at the beginning of this, we're screeching to a halt and having to look at this, that's what's going on, right? We're coming back to who we are. It's not that we're going inward and that's the movement and that's the new thing, because we're really prone to thinking trends are cool, and trends are actually us following somebody else. And that's the problem with this work, is it is an insular thing. It's yours. And the way that you do it is yours. So I just wrote a book called No, Where the Status Quo Ends and You Come to Life. It's coming out really soon in September here. And that is about how we do it for ourselves, but it's a gentle guidance for it. But in the book, I describe why we got into this model and how that happened. So let's go back to the guy with the yellow canvas. He was doing everything to try and tell me otherwise because he couldn't hear me. And then that's how we know he's in the model. He has something to prove in that. He's not knowing for himself that he can accept that's not for him. That's what art is about. It's either for you or it's not for you. And guess what? Life is compared to science all the time, all of the time. People should eat this. We should do this. We should. Nope. Life is an art form, and you do it your way. And you're going to know if you're leaning into an addiction. You're going to start to see it in your body or in your experience in your life. You know it. You need to address it. And so let's take that back to the somatic work. When we sit and are quiet, whatever that means, and we might feel very scattered in this era because there's so much coming at us from the world structure that's changing rapidly, and hard things that we're seeing in our world. I mean, for me, I'm in Hanover, Germany right now, and I went down to the city center to just take a break and work someplace other. And there were these older people that had signs about Palestine. And I looked at their, it was lovely. Like they had signs and a table and we're talking to people. But this is an unconscionable world that we live in when there are people starving in our world, people that are being positioned to be meant to be starving, right? We could help them. This could change. South Sudan, Gaza, the Palestinians. So here we are, and this whole scene, and I'm not getting into Palestine. Please don't take this and be like, I'm not going there. I simply saw a demonstration for Palestine. That's why I'm talking about it. I'm not going to the other direction. So, and I don't have a position. I more am saying people deserve access to food. People deserve access to the basic needs that they need. And to live in a world where we're continually seeing that that's not happening, and people are being beaten on ships because they're trying to bring food, or this is not acceptable. And we can't turn a blind eye. And I'm not here to say it's your job. I'm here to say, when you come back to yourself and you go through this challenging journey to come through, what ends up happening is you become an example of being somebody who is outside of the model. Now, you might tell me you're outside of the model. And if you tell me you're outside of the model, you are not outside of the model. Because if you know that you're outside of the model, you would say nothing. That's the power of it. The majority of what we do in our world is to prove that we are this certain way, that we are good enough, that we are, and we we boast, we tell, we withhold through avoidance. And on the other side, we have guilt, we have worry, and we have drama, and we have withholding that is really a form of self-abuse. I mean, it is, to me, it's self-abuse, or we're ruminating too much, we're turning it back on ourselves, we're, creating that relationship of depression with ourselves because we don't want to come out of ourselves. something I've been familiar with. I mean, it's no stranger here. So not just telling you this is the deal. I've experienced it deeply. And first of all, I want you to know you're not alone, even though this job or this work or this, it's not even a job or work, this action to go in is your own. There are places for support. And I caution you to just really keep an open eye. Now, you might be at the place where you're in a group and it feels really good, but I write an article called Dear HSP, Dear Highly Sensitive Person. And I've written about the empath a little bit, and then I wrote one that's too strong, and I can't decide how to rewrite it and how to let that be something else. But when we identify as an empath, we're coming through to a certain point in our life, and it's a recognition of, I can really feel. And that's a beautiful thing, but we've made it something that we label ourselves, I'm an empath, and it limits us. What I'm asking and what my work does and where it takes us is to this, that we look at it and challenge it inside of ourselves. We get frustrated with it. We shake our fists at the sky and say swear words. It's okay. But that if we challenge, why am I feeling all of this? And how do I not manage it or breathe through it or calm it down? But what is it there to tell me? You're going to get a result that is far different than what you've been getting by calming it down, because a lot of the work that's out there is to get it to stop, get it to stop, get it to stop. And that is the model. That is what the model is. The model said to you when you were 3 and you're cranky, you're just hungry, even though you're tired or you just got pinched by something. They aren't listening to you. And that is a problem. And then those little pieces that go along. And as parents, I know I for a while worked teaching parents, and I decided not until I come through this work, because we really have to parent ourselves first to be able to parent. And parents think they're thinking along the lines and so on. They can't see it because it's primary relationships, and your children are the most like you of anybody on earth, and it's right in your face. So that is really challenging. And well-meaning parents don't hold to the consequences because they feel sorry for their child, because the child's been through hard things. This isn't an easy day and age to live in. My first child that was born right near 9/11. They graduated from high school during the pandemic. I mean, there's just been so much, right? And then there was the recession, which I'm sure was stressful for us financially a bit. And that felt, just there's been a lot in our world, not to mention what's going on in the home life. There are things that happen there too, right? People pass away or financial struggles or so on. We are all experiencing this, but it doesn't make it that you are alone in it. I just want you to stay open-eyed about things like being empathic. We can label ourselves with disorders. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not here to say, no, that's not true. But I am here to say that, to me, what is really going on is it's a social construct of disordering. And that disordering came from exactly what I'm talking about in that parenting. And I'm not blaming parents. This is a hard situation. And that piece of it is not, I think, quite ready to be clinched. Oh, this is a lot. I know this is a lot. So when we're fighting, we're in the model. When we're wrestling ourselves, we're in the model. And I've done it. I've done it recently. I'm not above this. It is a tricky thing because what I see is we are all in it. And to take it further, and I've said this in a lot of videos, but I'll take it further here too, is this really relates to the hierarchy. And this is what I mean about parenting is parents feel sorry for kids, and instead of actually giving them the consequence that's natural for them to learn and grow, they instead, oh, it's okay. And then the child stays in a loop that isn't working. So the hierarchy really uses control, saying that some have no consequences and others have far too high of a consequence. Those who have no consequences never fully mature, yet gone unchecked, they set the tone for society, and they create what we call the status quo. And the status quo is untouchable. Well, that's just how it is. right? But we're at a place and a point in our world where it can't continue this way, and we know that. And the only resolve that we have is to go inward, which we already know that. But the third piece of it that I don't think people are seeing is there is this, it's not a patriarchy, it really is a hierarchy where it's challenging us because we aren't removing ourselves from it. Even in spiritual modalities, we can force ourselves to sit and meditate or have to sit and meditate. That still is a form of control. If we flow through that, like, okay, today I need to meditate. Oh, right now I need some yoga. I'm going to stop and do that. We move through our day because it's an art form that we're living, that we're going to have a better and more successful outcome in that. And the result of my work is natural equality, which I never expected that. I mean, I'm just floored by that. I think it's amazing. Because for me, I'm an altruist, and it's like if I could come up with something, that's what I'd want to come up with. But I didn't even realize that. So when we say manifest what you believe, or I mean, maybe inside of me somewhere I knew it, but there it is. There it is. The end result is natural equality. And in that natural equality, the other position that comes in is we're calm by nature. We're all the things naturally. So you can live in this churn, or you can move into something and be with a community that supports, that's fine. And then you might see that you've outgrown them. And I encourage you to move on. But when you're ready to leave the model, when you're ready to let narcissism collapse behind you, that's my work. And I ask you to come my way. I'm a public speaker, and I also do some one-to-one sessions as well as higher level coaching. But what I do is we talk about it and we figure out what you need and want and what you want to try, because that is the importance of it, is that you are the one who is, sorry about that, is focusing what is it that you need and how do I support that, right? And looking at how we move out of the model is a bit esoteric. My background is in being an intuitive and using that in kind of a counseling fashion. I mean, some of my clients would say to me early on, it's like having 10 therapy sessions in one session with you, and I didn't leave feeling exhausted, right? So there's a difference, and that's where we're headed, is moving into this quantum and that experience of all pure potential. So I hope this has supported you. I want you to really know the world is tricky, and there's something that we aren't seeing that is really important, which is this model. So I hope you continue to visit and watch these videos to reinforce, because my work works best when you have repetition with it. It's like learning a new language. And that you'll tell your friends that you like, share, and follow, because together we really can collapse narcissism. And it's not done how you might think. But once we become the example of what is on the other side of the model, of our expansive, expressive, unique self, others want it. It's sticky sweet. We're pretty quiet. We're pretty non-emotional because we know. And that is the point of my book, is we know, and we're settled in that. All right. Thanks for joining me here.